Hey, everybody, and welcome. So, I am Gina with AGA Business Solutions, and I offer a very unique blend of business consulting and website design. I've been a business consultant for about 16 years, started doing websites a few years ago because I felt like it was just a seamless integration with what I do. I am a Wix Legend partner and part of their marketplace. I don't work for Wix, I don't get a kickback, but I absolutely love the Wix website platform, which is why I do these webinars. So that's all I'm going to talk about as far as myself. I want this webinar to be just packed full of content and information, but I am obviously here to help in any way that I can with your website, with your business systems, or with business consulting. So let's go ahead and jump in to our presentation. So I'm going to be talking to you about Wix workflows and automations and how to streamline your business. So, why use workflows and automations? Well, first of all, obviously, to help you organize your business, to save time, to streamline efficiency, and really for customer experience. I've seen, like I said, I've been doing business consulting for 16 years, but I started my first business 27 years ago. And the world's a different place now. We're in the Amazon era where people don't just appreciate efficiency, they really, really expect it. So if you don't have a really efficient business and you can get back to people quickly, have online booking, all those things that people expect, they, like I said, they don't just appreciate it, they expect it. And they even get kind of irritated sometimes if you don't provide it. So um, just one of the many reasons to systematize and automate your business. So it does all start with systems. I thought that it was really important before I jump into the screen share and the Wix, workflows and automations that I do talk a little bit about systems. So what is a business system? Well, I Googled it, and what came up was a business system is a group of interdependent elements or tasks that meet a business objective, which is true, but it sounds kind of jargony to me. My jam is really taking complex things and simplifying them. So, in very simple terms, in my terms, a business system is simply every step you take to get from point A to point B. That's it. So, some common business systems, your interested client system and your booked client system. Those are the two most common. Every business should have those. That's two of the things that I help most of my clients with. So, of course, your interested client system would be what are all the steps you take from point A to point B? Point A being someone's interested in your service, point B being they book with you. Your booked client system is going to be okay once they give you that commitment. What happens? What's every single step that happens between them booking with you and you providing your product or service? But there are a lot of other things you can use systems for: follow up system, marketing system, content system, staff hiring and onboarding. Really, your goal should be to try to systematize everything in your business. So, what is the best system to use? People ask me that all the time. My clients ask me. So, first of all, I tell them it's one that you will use. I can't tell you how many people have told me they've, started using a CRM or, some kind of management system, and then they're like, "Oh, I pay for it every month, but I don't use it." So, make sure it's something that you will use. And really important, make sure that it's one that allows for growth. So, one of the other questions that I ask a lot is, would this system work if my business were to double in the next month, triple, quadruple? When I first started out in my first business 27 years ago, I didn't even use a computer to organize my business, let alone, of course, we didn't have social media and all of that. But I used systems that relied on note cards and binders. So we have so many tools now to help you really, really scale your business and systematize. So let's look at your interested client system really quick. That's usually a little bit more simple system than your booked client system. So that might consist of, obviously the client contacting you for information, you providing information, also including the next steps, following up with the client. Now, a lot of clients that I work for, or work with rather, um, they stop at providing the information because they're not systematized. I'm like, oh, how do you follow up with interested clients? They're like, oh, well, I try to send emails when I remember. I'm like, oh, not good enough. You need to systematize that because the magic really is in the follow up. And most of the clients, depending on what industry you're in, they're not necessarily going to book with you the very first time they encounter you. So having that follow up system. And then, of course, they book with you. Now, a booked client system is going to be much more complicated depending on your business and many more moving parts than your interested client system. So just to kind of give you an example, I'm going to run through this really quick. I just kind of laid out the steps that are involved when I bring on a new client for a custom website. So it would look something like this. Client wants to book, I get their commitment, I get their information, I give them information, what needs to happen next, upload images, we do a brand strategy session, I create their homepage, I get approval, I create their sub pages, I get approval, copyright strategy, copyright or website copy, mobile optimization, SEO, final approval, final invoice, custom video, leave a Google review, and then I move on to my content system. And what I mean by that is my content system is okay, once I've created this beautiful new site, I want to put it on my portfolio, I want to put it on my social media. I have a content system as well. So while we're on this booked client system, I just wanted to kind of give you an idea and show you how you can really automate these things. Not necessarily what I'm showing you in this video, but I just want to kind of give you an idea. So this is what I send my clients when they are booking for a new website. This is how I'm going to get information. So it's this form, and I'll show you kind of how the automations work. So once they fill everything out and they click, now this is where I automatically give them information. So I'm not constantly reinventing the wheel. I've got this set up. It's pretty much a set it and forget it. Sometimes I have some, fine tuning, but this is a place where it just keeps everything organized. And this is the kind of thing that really elevates your business. So, and then here's one more example. After their website's done, I send them this fancy little page that has my additional services and a custom training video. So I'm not showing you this to brag or show off, although I'm very, very proud of my systems. But really, it's because my goal is to get you excited and to open you up to the possibilities that systematizing your business can bring. It really just opens you up in a whole new way. So I get excited. I'm just a total system dork. So once you start successfully systematizing and automating, you're hooked for life. I mean, again, it's the only way to really scale your business. It's the only way to not be a slave to your business as far as just like working your ass off and not getting those results that you want and feeling like you're spinning your wheels. So, all you need to do in creating a system is really take one step at a time and break it down. And this is going to be important. This is kind of setting the foundation for when I get into the workflows and automations. Is you want to ask yourself, okay, after this happens, then what needs to happen next? Okay, now that that happened, now what needs to happen next, and so on and so forth until you literally go through every single step that's from point A to point B and every single sub step in between. And then you're going to ask yourself, how can I organize this? How can I systematize this? And how can I automate that, this step? And that's again where these workflows and automations come in. So a few more points about systems, and then we'll jump in to Wix and doing the screen share. First of all, I just want to remind you that your time is the most valuable resource that you have. So again, it's just the quicker you can implement systems, the better your life's going to be. You will never be able to significantly scale your business without effective and efficient systems. Now, in my business consulting, I really shy away from always, never, you have to do this. But this is one of those things that I feel very, very passionately and strongly about. And that is that this is true. You won't be able to significantly scale your business without effective and efficient systems. And the reason that franchises are significantly more successful than independent businesses is because of their systems. Of course, there's some franchises that are very well known and have that brand identity, but for the most part, what a franchise owner is selling is their system. So even if you don't want to franchise your business, you need to have those systems. I personally don't ever launch or market a new product or service until I have an effective system in place. I just don't, because I want to grow it quickly. So this is really important for me to point out, because I talk to a lot of people that tell me about how they run their business and their systems. Is it's important that you decide how you want to do business and then create your systems accordingly. So what I mean by that is, don't shop for an app or a program and then try to shove your business systems into it. You decide how you want to do things and then look for those programs and systems. They're going to facilitate the way you want to do business. Otherwise, you're not going to use that system. And that's another one of the things that I love about Wix is there's so much functionality that for free included in their platform that allows you to create the business the way that you want it. And then finally, this is probably the most important, is you need to stop procrastinating and just do it. I know it's a pain in the ass. I know it takes time, but this is the one thing in your business that is going to never be a bad investment of time or even money, is getting those systems set up. So let's get into it. So workflows and automations, they can work together or they can be used independently. So workflow is just going to help you organize and keep track of your processes and systems. And automations are, of course, going to help automate your processes and systems. So some of the most common uses for automations are going to be sending emails and texts when someone fills out maybe a form or a contract or anything, online booking, purchases if you sell, products online, following up with nurturing clients. So automations, we're going to go ahead and jump in now, and I'm going to show you how to set up an automated email for when someone fills out a form on your site. So let's go ahead and go here to my screen share. And we're going to go to, now I should have clicked on edit here. So, well, that's bringing that editor up. So here we are in your Wix dashboard. Those of you that are Wix users, this should look familiar. So I am going to be working, showing you guys this as if you have no ideas about automations and workflows. So if you are a little bit more advanced, you can fast forward or kind of stick with me, but I really wanted to make this available to someone that's just like, I've heard of automations, I've heard of workflows, but I have no idea what they are, what they do. So again, I'm going to kind of start from scratch here. So the first thing I'm going to show you is just where on your Wix dashboard you can find the automations and workflows. So automations are going to be down here, automations. We're working in that on this webinar. And then under here, contacts is where your workflows are. So let's go ahead and go to our editor. And this is just a demo site that I have set up. And we're going to go ahead and go to the contact page. So what I'm going to be showing you is how to set it up so that when someone fills out this form on your website, they immediately get an email. So the first thing that's kind of important, and especially if you have multiple forms on your site, is in your form settings here, is you want to make sure that you name this something that you want it to be called. So again, especially if you have multiple forms, because that's going to come in handy when we go to set up those automations. So let's go ahead and go back here to automations. And again, I'm just going to show you how to set up a simple automation. So we're going to go ahead and click on new automation. It's going to bring up some options, but I always just start from scratch. And then you're going to come in here. This is just for your internal use. So we're going to say information request. Okay, so before I get into creating this automated email, I want to just point out here, I have this demo site set up with a lot of different apps with online bookings and stores and a Wix forum and online programs. You may not have all of these things that pop up, but as you add certain apps, then it adds more functionality. So as you can see here, you can do automations for all different kinds of things when someone pays an invoice, when someone buys something, workflows, which we'll get into in a few minutes. Um, so I'm obviously not going to be able to go over everything in this webinar, but I definitely encourage you to go through and just kind of play around with this stuff on your own. So the first thing you're going to ask yourself when you're coming in here, remember that like when this happens, I need this to happen. So what's the this? What's the very first thing that's happening? And that is that someone is filling out that form. So that's we're going to come here and go to Wix Forms. So now right here, when a form is submitted, now I want to point this out too, because this is pretty cool, that let's say, for instance, you offer different services, but you only want to have one contact form. So this happens to be a template for a wedding planner. So let's say it's important for them to send out specific information for partial planning, full service planning, whatever it is. But again, this can be applicable to any business. You would come in here and add, I think it's under basic, radio buttons, and then put those options in there so that when you come to your automation, if they happen to just fill out full service or partial, then you can send a specific email. Thank you for your interest in our full service planning. But we're just going to go ahead and do just the general form. We don't want it to go to any form. We want it to be specific. So we're going to specifically click that contact us. That's where I was saying it's important to have those labeled so you know what's being sent out to what. So I'm not going to limit it this. You can, if someone fills it out more than once, you can limit this if you want, but we're going to leave that as is. You can add a delay. So and we're going to get into that in a minute with the workflows. So if you want that to be delayed, you can do that. You can add some conditions on here, but we don't want to delay that. As soon as someone fills out that form, we want to go ahead and shoot them an email. Even if it's like, thank you so much, we'll get in contact you within the next 24 hours. Again, however your business works. If you want, you can set up this email to have all of your pricing and everything right in it. So what we want to do is once they fill out that form, when this happens, then we want this to happen. So we want to send them an email. But you can see here, there's a lot of different options that you can use. We're going to use Move a Workflow Card in just a minute. The other thing too that's really cool, I don't have it on this demo site, but on my main AGA Business Solutions site, I actually have a Wix business number, which is really cool. It's very inexpensive and it allows you to get business calls sent directly to your phone and texts, but they come from your business line. So if you have that Wix business number, then one of the things that's going to show up is to be able to send a text message automatically to people, which is also very cool. So I'm going to come in here and edit your sender information, and then this is where you're going to edit that actual email. So I'm not going to take a whole lot of time to go through the editor because it's a pretty basic editor, but I'm just going to show you a few things really quick. Obviously, you want to come in here and change the subject. Let's go ahead and change this to test email. And then right here, I always like to change the theme to basic, but you can come in here and play around. I like to come in here and take off the border. I don't know why, but you can see you can come through here and just kind of play around with adding text, image, divider, a button, columns, videos, pretty much anything you can think of, you can add here. So you might want to have a button to book an appointment online, anything you can think of, and then you'd set up an automation for that when they book. You'll notice here that this one is not one of my upgraded sites, so you are going to have the Wix advertising. You can obviously pay to have that taken off through their Ascend plan. Also, if you end up doing a lot of these, not so much automations, I don't think they limit that, but if you end up doing a lot of email marketing, then you're probably going to want to upgrade that plan. So the only other thing I wanted to show you that you might not be aware of, because everything else is, again, just a pretty basic editor, but this does allow you to put personalized information. So we're going to say, hey, you come down here to the dynamic value, and then we're going to add their first name. Definitely put a fallback text just in case. So we'll say there, hey there. And then you can add your information. Always, especially if you're adding any buttons or videos or anything like that, preview and test. See how it's going to look on mobile. Check your buttons. You can send a test email if you like, but we're going to go ahead and go back to editing. So we're going to leave that just as is, and that is it. Save and continue. So right now you can see that you've got some options. Oh, you do actually have to put in here what this email is for. This is actually pretty new. They just want to cover their butts there. So go ahead. Now you can see here we can add an action. I'm going to show you that. I want to keep things really simple at the beginning, but I'm going to show you that when we get into workflows. So we're going to go ahead and activate. And now we have our first automation. This one was set up, created by, oh no, I actually did create that. So anyways, we've got our information request. Now, if you kind of are in a hurry and haven't tested or whatever, and you want to make this inactive, that's pretty easy. And then you can come in and make it active anytime you want. So let me go up here, what I'm going to do now, and I am going to test this form that we just created. So I'm going to go up here to home. And then let's go to our live site. One of our beautiful templates here. And we're going to go up here and go to contact. And let's go ahead and put in our information and submit. Okay, now if I go to my email, it's going to probably take a minute. There we go. So you can see there immediately we're getting that test email. Obviously, it looks weird because we didn't edit it, but see how that works. It's that easy. What did that take us? Like not even 10 minutes. So that's how to set up a simple email, automated email. Now you'll also get in the email that's set up on your Wix account, you'll also get a notification. Make sure you go through here if you haven't already under settings and make sure that you let Wix know how you want to be notified. Definitely set up that Wix Owners app on your phone if you don't already have it so that you get notifications there as well. So now we're going to go ahead and jump in. So that's how, automations can just be used independently. We're going to jump in now. I'm going to introduce you to workflows. So let's go ahead under contacts and go to workflows. So all you need to do is get started. Again, it's going to give you a lot of different options. You can kind of explore these, but I like to start from scratch. And we're just going to call this test. So you can come through here and let's say that so now what we're going to do is we're going to set, actually, you know what, before I get into that, let me just kind of give you an example that'll kind of, in case you aren't familiar with workflows, to kind of simplify this. So I have to tell you, I do this for a living and these sometimes still boggle my mind. You really have to dissect them and think very carefully, okay, what do I want to have happen next? How am I going to implement that? So this is a good way to kind of explain it to you. You could, if you want, simply use a workflow to keep yourself organized. So let's say you didn't set up any automations. You could simply come in here and rename this requested information. And then this is sent information. And then let's add one more. And let's say this is followed up. Okay, so let's say you're still doing everything manually. You're sending them information manually. You're sending them off an email. You're following up with them manually, all of these things. So if you wanted, what you could do, when it says add a card, that just means like a client or a contact. So we'll go ahead and you search for that client. If they're not in there already, you can add them. So we're going to go ahead and I'll add myself to So again, that's just a way for me to know, okay, they requested information. Now I know I need to send them information, but maybe you don't get a chance to right then. This is just going to keep you organized. But now I'm getting ready to go ahead and send out that information. All I would need to do is move this over. Now I kind of have this visual, for those of you that are visual, of what I've done with what client. So that's a very simple way to use a workflow. But of course, we're going to get into a little bit more advanced and let Wix and this system do a lot of the work for you. So I'm going to go ahead and go in here, and let's go ahead and archive that, and then we'll take it out. Okay. But what we're going to do is we're going to create a system. This is kind of a simple way. So we're going to say request information. So instead, we're going to actually call this, so we're going to have sent information, and then we're going to say first follow-up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to set up a series of events where they automatically get sent that information, just like we did with that automation, but then they also automatically get a follow-up a few days later or however much longer, after they get the information that you want to send that. So we went ahead and set up the steps. So this is where you can kind of set up the steps in your system. And then let's go ahead and go back to that automation. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually delete this because we're going to kind of start from scratch. So now I've got my workflow set up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to have the system trigger so that when someone fills out that form, they get put in that workflow. So I'm going to go ahead and click on new automation. Start from scratch. And we're going to say sent information. So same thing, the first thing that's happening, the trigger, is going to be that Wix form. So we're going to click on Wix Forms. So when a form is submitted, so same thing, you could have it be what's selected, and you could have different workflows for different types of things that people are interested in. So we're going to say specific. And then we're going to say contact us. Okay, so what we want to do this time is instead of immediately sending them that email, first we want to get them in that workflow. So where on this one we had send email, now we're going to say move a card in a workflow. So I'm going to ask you to select. We only have one, but if you've got multiple, and then we're going to put them in sent information. Now, there's a couple different reasons why you would or wouldn't want to add an action within a single automation. And I'm going to explain that to you in a little bit. Now, in this case, so mostly it's when you're going to want to wait for that action to happen. So with this automation, we don't need to wait. We want to put them in the workflow and get them started in that and send them the email at the same time. So we're going to go ahead and add an action. We don't want to delay it, and we want to go ahead and send them an email. And then we can come in here and edit that. I'm going to go ahead and say same thing. There we go. And then if you wanted to just go ahead and activate that, I'm going to give you one more example of how you can use these. Let's say, for instance, and this is something that I recommend to my clients, I do love automated emails. I love for clients to be able to get their information right away, but there's also something to be said for that personal touch. So I also like for my clients to either reach out and call an interested client or to text them. So if you don't have that Wix business number, then what you might want to do is immediately go ahead and create a task. So I'll show you that in a second. Wix has a really great task and reminders feature. So we're going to say follow up via text with welcome message. So it could be like, hey, I just emailed you some information. Let me know if you have any questions. So you can assign it to your team members. You can set a due date, and I'll show you that in a second. So we're going to go ahead and activate that now. And again, you may be wondering, okay, well, if we want to do a follow-up in 3 days or a week or something, Why wouldn't we just add it to that automation? And there is a reason why. So I'm going to go into that in a second, but before we move on to that, we are going to go ahead and come back here and we're going to test this. So we're going to go ahead and put that in, submit. And now if we come to our workflows, there is that name that automatically pops up. So they're automatically sent to that workflow. If we come over here, then they also got that email right away. So that's going to do 2 steps in one. It's going to add them to that workflow and send them their information. Okay, before I move on to that, I just want to show you really quick under here. Contacts is your tasks and reminders. So again, here we go, follow up via text with a welcome message. It's going to show you who that contact is. So this is a really great way, again, just another tool to help keep you organized. So maybe you didn't get a chance to text them, but you can be constantly, checking these tasks and reminders and checking them off as you do them. And then again, if you add this as a notification to your Wix Owners app on your phone, then you're going to have constant reminders like your own little personal assistant. Hey, you need to follow up with this person. Okay, so let's go back to, what was I in? Workflows? Okay, so what I was going to say is you may be asking, well, why don't I just want to create one long automation that's like 3 days later, send another email, and then 5 days later? The reason for that is because if you did that, let's say within this automation, you added another step where you're going to send them a follow-up 5 days later. Well, what happens if they book within 2 days? You don't want to send them an email, hey, did you still want to use my services? Here's all the great things I have to offer. They're going to be like, I already booked with you. Are you an idiot? So if you add them all together, there's kind of no stopping that train. So what we want to do is instead of automatically sending them another email, we want to create an automation, or actually we're going to add it to the other one, that let's say 5 days later, it's going to automatically go to this next step. You don't have to do anything. So let's go back to our automations and go back in here to edit. So remember, if this happens, then we want this to happen. So right now, someone filled out a form, we added them to a workflow, we sent them an email, we created the task, and now what we want to do is now we do want to add a delay. 5 days later, we want to, oh no, actually, sorry, we don't want to send them an email. See, I told you I even get confused. 5 days later, we want to move them over in the workflow. So actually, we're going to go to workflow, and then we're going to go into first follow-up and save. So just to recap, because I know this is a lot of information, so just so you have the visual, let's go back to our workflow. So now in this first workflow that we have, when they fill out the form, they're getting put into the workflow, they're getting sent an email, it's creating a task for us, so we remember to text them. This little card is going to sit here, and 5 days later, bloop, it's automatically going to get put in this first follow-up. So now what we need to do, so let's think about it. Okay, when this moves over 5 days later, what do we need to have happen? We need to send them a follow-up email. So that's where we come back here to our automations and we create a new automation. And we're going to call this first follow-up. So this is the system that I use to create an entire sales funnel. You can use this for interested clients. You can use this for content marketing. It's amazing. I just have to tell you this quick little story. I just started working with a client, and they are working with another company who basically has this sales funnel that I'm talking about set up for them, something that you can do for free in Wix. and they are paying them $1,000 a month to do this, something you can do for free in Wix. So super valuable. Okay, just had to point that out. So our first follow-up, so what we want to do is, so what's the trigger? The trigger is when that card or that client, interested client, 5 days later from their initial request moves over into that workflow, we want to send them an email. So the trigger is the workflow. So in our test workflow, when a card is moved to first follow-up, and remember that's going to be done automatically, we want to send them an email. And now we can come in here. Hey, just wanted to follow up on the email I sent you before, blah, blah, blah. So that is all that you need to do for that. So now if we go back to our workflow, here we've got already our very first information being sent automated and our first follow-up being automated. So you can just kind of continue that process and create a sales funnel. Now, what I did want to talk to you about is when you can and can't use automation. So there are going to be some times in your business where it's just something that cannot be automated. Like maybe that you have to do a phone call with a client. Now, of course, if that's the case, you can set up online booking. But let's say that there's a point in your process where you need to call them and remind them of something, or I don't know, you can think about like anything that you would need to do manually. So let's go ahead and or actually I have a better example. So we're going to add a step and we're going to say, what would be some, I was just thinking of a really great example that I could give you. So let's say that you need to confirm their contract, right? So let's say that this doesn't happen. Now, of course, this would be more in a booked client workflow, but I just want to give you this example. So what I'm trying to explain here is, let's say, for instance, that there's a specific email that's pretty much the same for everyone, but there's no specific time that it needs to be sent to them. It's going to happen after something else happens. So you can't set it up like, hey, 5 days later, send this. You need to send that email out after they do something. So let's say after they send their deposit, then you need to confirm their contract. So what you can do in that case is you could come in here and set up an automation for confirm contract that sends out an email, but you just won't have it automatically go there. And then what you do is when you're ready for that email to get sent out, you simply move them into that step. Now, anytime you manually add someone to a step, it's going to trigger whatever automation you've set up for that. So that's just kind of a way that you can, use this system. Again, not necessarily specific with a specific time, but kind of in any way that you want. I hope this makes sense. I know these workflows and automations are a lot of information. They kind of take a little bit of, analytical thinking to really set them up correctly. But once you get the hang of it, they're pretty amazing. So I think that's pretty much it. I don't want to overwhelm you. I really just wanted to introduce you to workflows and automations. So many things you can do with this. There's also dynamic pages that Wix offers. So again, really any way that you can think to organize and run your business. I hope I didn't miss anything. Like I said, I really wanted this just to kind of be an introduction to this concept. I'm always here. I'm going to jump off this portion of the webinar and take some questions and answers. But this will be it for the video. And then, of course, if you guys watching have any questions or need any help, make sure that you visit me here at AGA Business Solutions, set up a free consultation. I would love to be able to help you to organize, streamline, and scale your business. Thanks so much for watching.